Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. The hot liquid spilled across his desk as he jumped to his feet. Outside the windows of his office on the orbital station New Geneva, space looked wrong. Where yesterday there had been empty blackness dotted with stars, now massive gray ships hung in the void like sleeping giants. "Sir, we have a situation." Lieutenant Ben Rogers burst through the door without knocking. His face was pale, and his hands shook slightly. "Unknown vessels have appeared above Earth, Mars, and every human colony world simultaneously." Jake grabbed his uniform jacket and followed Ben to the command center. The room buzzed with activity as dozens of officers worked at their stations. The main screen showed a view of Earth from orbit, and hanging above the blue planet were 3 enormous alien ships. Each one was at least 5 miles long and covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift when Jake looked at them. "How many ships total?" Jake asked Commander Sarah Phillips, his second in command. 237 confirmed contacts across all human systems, Sarah replied. They appeared at exactly the same time in every location. No warning, no energy signatures detected beforehand. Jake felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Humanity had been exploring space for over 200 years, but they had never encountered alien life. Now it seemed the aliens had found them instead. The communication system crackled to life and a voice spoke in perfect English. "Attention, inhabitants of the Sol system and surrounding territories. I am High Arbiter Zephkol of the Galactic Council. You will prepare to receive an official communication." The main screen changed to show a tall, thin alien figure. Its skin was pale blue and its eyes were large and golden. It wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal, and when it moved, the fabric rippled like water. Behind it stood other aliens of different shapes and sizes, all watching with expressions that looked somewhere between bored and annoyed. "Species designation, human," Zephkol continued. "You have violated galactic law by expanding beyond your designated quarantine zone without proper authorization. Your species was observed to be developing space travel capabilities approximately 300 of your years ago. At that time, the Galactic Council established a containment perimeter around your origin system." Jake exchanged glances with Sarah. "Quarantine zone? The aliens had been watching humanity for 3 centuries? Your continued expansion into unauthorized systems constitutes a breach of galactic peace protocols," the alien said. "The Galactic Council has governed this galaxy for 50,000 years. All developing species must remain within their assigned territories until they demonstrate sufficient maturity for full galactic citizenship." Dr. Helen Wade, the station's science officer, stepped forward. "Admiral, this is incredible. They're talking about galactic governance like it's completely normal. How many species are we talking about?" "Shh," Jake raised his hand. The alien was still speaking. "You have 30 Earth Standard days to withdraw all human presence from unauthorized systems and return to the Sol system. All colonial populations will be relocated to designated reservation worlds where they will receive proper supervision and guidance. Failure to comply will result in corrective action." The screen showed images of human colonies. Jake recognized the mining stations on Kepler 442b, the agricultural domes on Wolf 3 9c, and the research outposts scattered across a dozen systems. All of humanity's expansion over the past century was displayed like items in a catalog. "Your species shows potential," Zephkol continued, "but you lack the wisdom that comes with age. The Council has seen many young races destroy themselves through unchecked expansion. We offer protection and guidance to prevent such tragedies." "Guidance," Sarah muttered. "Sounds more like imprisonment." "The Council fleet will remain in position to ensure compliance," the alien concluded. "Any attempt at resistance will be met with appropriate force. Your cooperation is expected and appreciated." The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center for several long seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Officers shouted questions and status reports while technicians tried to scan the alien ships. Jake held up his hand for quiet. "Get me President Carter on a secure channel," he ordered. "Sarah, I want everything we know about those ships. Weapons, shields, propulsion, everything." "Sir, our scanners can't penetrate their hulls," Lieutenant Rogers reported. "Whatever they're made of, it's blocking all our sensors. Keep trying. Helen, I want you to analyze everything about that transmission. Language patterns, technology, anything that might tell us about these aliens." President Lisa Carter appeared on the secondary screen within minutes. Her usually perfect appearance was disheveled, and Jake could see advisors rushing around behind her in the presidential bunker. "Jake, please tell me you have good news," she said. "I'm afraid not, Madam President. We're dealing with something way beyond our current capabilities. These aliens have been watching us for centuries, and they have ships above every human world." Options? Jake looked around the command center at his officers. They were good people, brave and skilled, but they were facing technology that might as well be magic. "We could try to fight, but I don't think our weapons would even scratch those ships. We could try to negotiate, but they seem to think the matter is already settled. Or we could comply," Carter said quietly. "Compliance means giving up everything. We've built outside Sol system. It means accepting alien rule over humanity." Carter was quiet for a moment. "What do your instincts tell you, Admiral?" Jake thought about the alien's tone during the broadcast. There had been no anger, no negotiation, no consideration of human opinion. They spoke like adults talking to children who had misbehaved. "My instincts tell me that compliance today means slavery tomorrow. Then we need to find a third option. How long do we have?" 30 days. Not much time to figure out how to fight gods. Carter's expression hardened. "Jake, I'm authorizing you to explore all possible defensive measures. Use any resources you need." After the call ended, Jake stared out at the alien ships hanging in space above Earth. They hadn't moved since appearing, just floating there like monuments to power beyond human understanding. But Jake had spent his career studying military history, and he knew that every army, no matter how powerful, had weaknesses. "Sarah, get me every piece of classified research we have on theoretical alien contact scenarios, and find Commander Blake. It's time to activate some of those black projects he's been working on." "Sir, you really think we can fight them?" Jake looked at his reflection in the window, seeing his own doubt staring back. Behind his reflection, one of the alien ships slowly rotated, its hull patterns shifting like a living thing. "I think we better find a way, because I don't believe for a second that they plan to let humanity stay free no matter how well we behave." Commander Ryan Blake stood in a room that officially didn't exist. Located 3 miles beneath the surface of Luna, the facility housed Project Deep Strike, humanity's most classified military program. For 40 years, Ryan had been preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now it seemed his preparations might be humanity's only hope. "Show me what we have," Admiral Morrison said as he entered the underground complex. Behind him walked President Carter and Dr. Helen Wade. The 3 most powerful people in human space had come to see weapons that weren't supposed to exist. Ryan led them through corridors lined with armor plating that could stop nuclear explosions. "We started this project in 2347, right after we found the first alien probe crashed on Titan. Most people thought it was just space junk, but some of us wondered what would happen if whoever built it came looking for it." They entered a massive chamber filled with strange machinery. Sleek vehicles that looked nothing like human technology sat in neat rows. Soldiers in black armor practiced combat drills against holographic enemies. Banks of computers processed data streams that would have overloaded normal systems. "The basic idea was simple," Ryan continued. "If we ever faced a technologically superior enemy, conventional tactics would fail. So we developed unconventional ones." Colonel Amy Torres approached from across the chamber. Her uniform bore no rank insignia or unit patches, and her face had the hard look of someone who had seen too much combat. "Madam President, Admiral Morrison, I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. What can you tell us about the alien ships?" President Carter asked. Amy gestured to a holographic display showing one of the council vessels. "We've been analyzing them since they arrived. Their technology is impressive, but not impossible to counter. The problem is they assume we don't know how to fight them." "Meaning?" Admiral Morrison prompted. They use energy dampening fields to disable enemy ships, Amy explained. Highly effective against energy-based weapons and most electronic systems. But we've been developing countermeasures. For decades, she touched a control panel and the hologram changed to show human soldiers in advanced armor. This is Mark 7 powered combat armor. It uses mechanical backup systems and hardened electronics. Their dampening fields can't stop it. Dr. Wade stepped closer to examine the display. How many of these suits do you have? 5,000 combat-ready units, Amy replied, plus another 10,000 in various stages of completion. Ryan led them to another section of the facility. Here, Chief Engineer Danny Clark worked with a team of technicians on what looked like a massive communications array. Danny was a small man with graying hair and oil-stained clothes, but his eyes held the intensity of someone who saw solutions where others saw problems. Danny's been working on something special, Ryan said. Show them. Danny wiped his hands on a rag and smiled. We call it the quantum web. For the past 20 years, we've been disguising weapons platforms as asteroid, mining stations, communication relays, and research outposts throughout human space. The display showed the locations of human installations across 12 star systems. As Danny touched controls, red dots appeared at seemingly random locations. Each red dot is a hidden weapons platform. The aliens think they're looking at mining, equipment, or communications gear. They're actually looking at the most advanced weapon network ever built. How many platforms? Admiral Morrison asked. 2,347, Danny replied. Each one is armed with kinetic projectiles, gravitational weapons, and quantum disruption systems. The aliens won't see them coming until it's too late. President Carter studied the display with growing amazement. You've been building a secret army for 40 years. Insurance policy, Ryan corrected. We hoped we'd never need it. Dr. Wade had been quiet during the tour, but now she spoke up. There's something else you should know. I've been analyzing the alien broadcast and I found references to something called the Zephyrian Republic. They're not part of the Galactic Council. Rebels? Admiral Morrison asked. More than that. I've been trying to make contact with them through quantum communication channels. It took some work, but I managed to establish a connection 3 hours ago. Helen activated a portable communicator and strange symbols appeared on its screen. After a moment, the symbols changed to English text. Human representatives, we have been monitoring your situation. The Galactic Council fears your species more than they will admit. The room fell silent as everyone read the message. Ryan was the first to speak. They fear us? Why? Helen typed a response and waited. The answer came quickly. Council power comes from psychological dominance. For 50,000 years, no species has successfully resisted them. If humans refuse to submit, others may follow. Council knows this. Ask them about the relocation program, President Carter suggested. More symbols appeared, then translated text. Relocation is permanent imprisonment. Reservation worlds are sealed systems. No species has ever left them once placed there. Council studies imprisoned populations to understand how to prevent future resistance. The implications hit everyone at the same time. The aliens weren't offering protection or guidance. They were planning to turn humanity into test subjects for learning how to control other species. Amy Torres stepped forward. Sir, with respect, we can't let that happen. What are our real chances? Admiral Morrison asked. Ryan looked at his officers and the president before answering. In a straight fight, we'd lose in minutes. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but we're not planning a straight fight. Danny brought up a new display showing the Sol system. The aliens are confident because they've never faced human tactics. They expect us to either surrender or fight conventionally. We're going to do neither. The plan is simple, Amy added. We appear to comply with their demands while secretly positioning our forces. When they try to implement the relocation program, we hit them with everything we have. And if we lose, President Carter asked, then at least we lose as free humans instead of live slaves, Ryan replied. Dr. Wade received another message from the Zephyrian contacts. They're offering to help. They say they have ships hidden in this region of space and can provide tactical Support. Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. How long do we need to prepare? The aliens gave us 30 days to withdraw, Amy said. We need at least 25 days to position our forces and coordinate with the Zephyrians. That gives us 5 days for the actual operation. President Carter looked around the room at the faces of humanity's secret defenders. These people had spent decades preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Now that war was here, and humanity's survival depended on plans made in underground bunkers and weapons hidden among the stars. Do it, she said. But make it look convincing. The aliens need to believe we're complying until we're ready to strike. As the meeting ended and the leaders prepared to return to the surface, Ryan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. 40 years of preparation would be tested in the coming weeks. Humanity's freedom, perhaps their very existence, depended on the success of plans that had never been tested in real combat. Outside the facility, Luna's surface was gray and lifeless under the harsh light of the sun. But 3 miles below, humanity's hidden strength awakened like a sleeping giant. The Galactic Council thought they were dealing with primitive children. They were about to discover that humans could be very dangerous when cornered. High Arbiter Zefkal stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and watched Earth turn slowly beneath his ship. The blue planet looked peaceful from this distance, but he knew better than to trust appearances. Still, the humans had been surprisingly cooperative during the past 28 days. Their withdrawal from unauthorized systems was proceeding exactly on schedule. Status report, he commanded. Subcommander Vextar, a reptilian Korthak with scales that shifted from green to purple, when agitated, consulted his displays. Human forces have evacuated 17 colony worlds. Their ships are returning to the Sol system as ordered. No signs of military resistance. Excellent. And their fleet disposition? Most human warships have taken defensive positions around Earth and Mars. Standard pattern for a species preparing to accept Council authority. Zefkal nodded approvingly. Humans were proving more sensible than some species the Council had encountered. The Zephyrians, for example, had required extensive, corrective action before accepting their proper place in galactic society. Even now, almost 1,000 years later, Zephyrian rebels occasionally caused minor disruptions in remote systems. Sir, another officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the human leadership. They request permission to send a diplomatic representative aboard our vessel. Granted. It's time to formalize their surrender. An hour later, Commander Sarah Phillips materialized on the Eternal Dominion's transport pad. She wore her best dress uniform and carried herself with military bearing, but Zefkal could see the defeat in her eyes. It was the same look he had seen from hundreds of species over the millennia. High Arbiter, Sarah said with a respectful bow. I bring greetings from President Carter and Admiral Morrison. They wish to discuss the terms of humanity's transition to Council authority. There are no terms to discuss, Zefkal replied mildly. The process is standard and has been refined over 50,000 years. Your species will be relocated to the designated worlds where you will receive proper guidance and protection. Sarah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. My leaders hoped there might be some flexibility in the arrangements. Humans have grown, accustomed to a certain degree of autonomy. Autonomy is the privilege of mature species, Zefkal explained patiently. Young races require supervision to prevent them from harming themselves or others. You will find the reservation worlds quite comfortable. He gestured to a holographic display showing 3 planets: New Haven, Safe Harbor, and Sanctuary. Each world has been terraformed to approximate Earth conditions. Your populations will be divided among them based on genetic and cultural compatibility assessments. And we would be free to govern ourselves on these worlds? Within appropriate limits, yes. The Council provides guidance on major decisions, but day-to-day administration would remain in human hands. Sarah nodded as if considering the offer, but Zefkal noticed her hand move to touch a small device on her belt. Probably a recording mechanism, he thought. Humans were known to document everything. What he didn't know was that the device was actually one of Danny Clark's quantum communicators. As Sarah spoke with the High Arbiter, she was transmitting everything she heard directly to the hidden human command center on Luna. The relocation will begin tomorrow, Zefkol continued. Transport ships are already approaching your colony worlds to assist with the process. We estimate 6 months for complete relocation of your outer settlements. And our fleet will be decommissioned and replaced with Council-approved vessels more suitable for inter-system patrol duties within your reservation zone. During their conversation, neither Zefkol nor Sarah noticed the quantum virus that Danny Clark had embedded in the communicator. The tiny program was already spreading through the Eternal Dominion's computer networks, copying data and establishing hidden communication channels. On the bridge, Sub-Commander Vextar watched his displays with growing satisfaction. Sir, our scanning shows that human orbital defenses around Earth are powering down. They appear to be preparing for deactivation. As expected, Zefkol said, fear is an excellent motivator for compliance. What Vextar's scans couldn't detect was that the platforms powering down were elaborate decoys. The real defense network remained hidden throughout the asteroid belt and around the outer planets, completely invisible to Council sensors. Captain Pete Johnson floated in the cockpit of his stealth ship Nighthawk, 3 million miles from the nearest Council vessel. His ship's hull was coated with metamaterials that absorbed sensor waves, making it effectively invisible. For the past week, he had been cataloging every Council ship movement and transmission. This is interesting, he muttered to himself as he studied the alien formation patterns. They're not even trying to hide their tactical weaknesses. The Council fleet was arranged in a classic domination formation, designed to demonstrate overwhelming power rather than provide mutual protection. Ships were spread out to cover maximum area, but this left gaps in their defensive coverage that smaller vessels could exploit. Pete transmitted his observations to the hidden command center through quantum-encrypted channels that the Council couldn't intercept. The aliens had advanced technology, but they had grown complacent after millennia of easy victories. Back aboard the Eternal Dominion, Commander Phillips concluded her meeting with High Arbiter Zefkol. Thank you for your time, High Arbiter. I will convey your information to my superiors. The process will be much easier if humans cooperate fully, Zefkol said. Resistance only prolongs the transition period and causes unnecessary suffering. I understand. We want what's best for our people. As Sarah was transported back to her ship, Zefkol felt satisfied with the meeting. Humans were proving to be reasonable, unlike some species the Council had encountered. The Nexari had been particularly troublesome, using their psionic abilities to resist Council authority for decades before finally accepting their place. Begin final preparations for the relocation process, he ordered his staff. I want transport. Ships in position around all remaining human colonies by dawn. Yes, sir, Vextar replied. Should we maintain full defensive postures? Standard patrol formation will be sufficient. The humans have accepted their fate. 3 hours later, in the hidden command center on Luna, Admiral Morrison reviewed the intelligence that Sarah had gathered. The quantum virus was already providing real-time data on Council ship positions and communication protocols. They're not even pretending to be ready for a fight, Colonel Torres observed as she studied the alien fleet dispositions. Look at these gaps in their formation. Danny Clark looked up from his computer displays. The virus has mapped their entire command structure. I can disrupt their communications network at any time. And our hidden platforms? Admiral Morrison asked. All 2,347 weapons platforms report ready for action, Danny replied. The aliens have no idea they exist. Dr. Wade received another message from the Zephyrian rebels. They confirm that Council protocols haven't changed in over 1,000 years. The aliens will use the same tactics they've always used. Ryan Blake stepped forward. Sir, all special operations teams are in position. When you give the word, we can take control of key Council vessels. Within hours. Admiral Morrison looked around the room at humanity's secret defenders. Tomorrow, the Council would begin the forced relocation of human civilians. That's when humanity would show the galaxy that some species refuse to bow to ancient authority. Send the activation signal to all units, he ordered. Protocol 7 is now in effect. Across human space, dormant systems awakened and hidden weapons came online. The Galactic Council thought they were about to oversee the submission of another, primitive species. Instead, they were about to face the first serious challenge to their authority in 50,000 years. The first Council transport ship approached the human colony on Wolf 3-9C at dawn. The massive vessel descended through the atmosphere like a gray mountain, its bulk blotting out the morning sun. On the ground, human civilians gathered there, belongings as ordered, preparing for relocation to the reservation worlds. Admiral Morrison watched the scene through satellite feeds from his command center on Luna. Around him, dozens of officers waited at their stations. The moment he had prepared for during 40 years of military service was finally here. Transport ship is beginning civilian extraction, reported Lieutenant Rogers. Council estimates show they plan to remove 8,000 colonists today. Danny, status on the quantum virus? Chief Engineer Clark smiled grimly at his displays. Full penetration of their command network. I can see everything they're doing in real time. They have no idea we're watching. Amy, are your teams ready? Colonel Torres checked her tactical display. All special operations units report ready. We have strike teams positioned near every major council vessel. Morrison took a deep breath. For nearly a month, humanity had played the role of defeated primitives. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. Begin Operation Freedom, he ordered. Across human space, the response was immediate and devastating. Hidden, weapons platforms that had masqueraded as mining equipment for decades suddenly revealed their true nature. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to near-light speed. Bimagnetic launchers struck Council ships with the force of small nuclear weapons. The aliens' energy shields, designed to stop energy-based attacks, were useless against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. In the Wolf 359 system, 3 Council escort vessels exploded in brilliant flashes as projectiles punched through their hulls. The massive transport ship found itself surrounded by weapon signatures that hadn't existed moments before. Impossible, Sub-Commander Vextar gasped as he watched his tactical display aboard the Eternal Dominion. Where did those weapons come from? High Arbiter Zefkol stared at the reports flooding in from across human space. Council ships were under attack by weapons that appeared from nowhere. His dampening fields, which should have disabled any human technology, had no effect on the projectile weapons. Status report, he demanded. 17 ships destroyed, 34 damaged, an officer reported. The attacks are coming from concealed platforms throughout human space. Activate full defensive protocols. Deploy the suppression fleet. But as Zefkol gave his orders, Danny Clark's quantum virus activated its final protocol. False commands began flooding the Council communication network. Ships received orders to reposition, to stand down, to retreat to coordinates that led them directly into human weapon fire. Captain Ben Rogers emerged from hyperspace in the Vega system with a fleet of 50 human warships. The Council had thought these vessels were retreating in defeat. Instead, they had been secretly modified with hybrid human-alien technology that made them immune to dampening fields. All ships, engage at will, Rogers commanded. The human fleet struck the surprised Council garrison like a pack of wolves. The aliens had grown comfortable after millennia of easy victories. Their formations were designed for intimidation, not actual combat. Human ships, smaller and more maneuverable, darted between the massive Council vessels like fighters attacking bombers. Energy weapons that should have been disabled by dampening fields tore through alien hulls. Human engineers had spent decades studying captured alien technology, learning how to overcome the Council's primary tactical advantage. Meanwhile, Colonel Torres led the assault on the Eternal Dominion itself. Her boarding craft, disguised as a Council shuttle and using stolen identification codes, docked with the massive command ship without challenge. Remember, we need the High Arbiter alive, she told her team as they prepared to board. Intelligence wants to know everything about Council operations. The human soldiers who emerged from the shuttle looked nothing like the primitive warriors the Council expected. They wore powered armor that incorporated alien technology improvements, carried weapons that fired both energy and kinetic projectiles, and moved with the precision of a military force that had trained for this exact scenario. Council security forces tried to stop them, but they were unprepared for human tactics. Where aliens fought in rigid formations, humans adapted constantly. Where council troops relied on superior technology, human soldiers used creativity and teamwork. Perimeter secured, Torres reported, as her team reached the Eternal Dominions. Command deck. We have control of their primary computer core. Commander Phillips, still officially aboard as a diplomatic observer, coordinated with Torres from inside the ship. Danny's virus has given us complete access to their systems. We can control their engines, weapons, everything. The psychological impact on the Council forces was immediate and devastating. For 50,000 years, they had been the galaxy's undisputed masters. Younger species either submitted immediately or were crushed by overwhelming technological superiority. The concept of effective resistance was alien to them. Sir? Vextar reported to Zephkol, his scales now a deep purple with stress. We're receiving reports of uprisings in the Altair Proxima and Kepler systems. Local species are attacking our garrison forces. Uprisings. Zephkol couldn't comprehend what he was hearing. That's impossible. Those species have been pacified for centuries. Dr. Wade, monitoring Council communications from Luna, smiled as she read the intercepted messages. The quantum virus was providing humanity with intelligence on Council operations throughout the galaxy. More importantly, news of humanity's resistance was spreading to other suppressed species. The Zephyrian rebels are moving, she reported to Admiral Morrison. They're coordinating attacks with our operations. 3 other species have declared independence from Council authority. Morrison nodded approvingly. What's our overall status? 60% of the Council fleet is destroyed or captured, Lieutenant Rogers reported. The remainder is trapped in human space with their communications compromised and their supply lines cut. And casualties on our side? Light. The aliens never saw us coming. Captain Pete Johnson, still invisible in his stealth ship, watched as the last Council resistance in the Sol system collapsed. The mighty fleet that had appeared to demand humanity's surrender was now scattered wreckage floating among the planets. This is Nighthawk to all human forces, he transmitted. Council fleet command structure has collapsed. Remaining ships are requesting permission to surrender. In the captured command center of the Eternal Dominion, High Arbiter Zephkol found himself face-to-face with Colonel Torres. The proud alien leader who had demanded humanity's submission now stood as a prisoner aboard his own flagship. How? He asked simply. Your species was contained. Your technology was primitive. Torres removed her helmet, revealing a human face that showed no mercy. You made the same mistake that every bully makes. You assumed that being stronger meant you were smarter. We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years, and now your rule is over. Commander Phillips approached with a datapad containing the quantum virus's intelligence harvest. Admiral Morrison wants to know the location of every Council garrison and every suppressed species in the galaxy. Zephkol's golden eyes widened as he realized the full scope of what was happening. This wasn't just a local rebellion. Humanity was planning to challenge Council authority throughout the galaxy. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. The galaxy needs order. Without Council guidance, younger species will destroy themselves. Maybe, Torres replied, but that will be their choice to make. As reports continued to flood in from across human space, one thing became clear. The Galactic Council's age of absolute authority was ending. In its place, a new order was emerging, one based on freedom rather than fear. The Council had claimed authority over humanity. Humanity's response was shaking the foundations of galactic civilization itself. 3 weeks after the Battle of Sol, President Lisa Carter walked into the conference room aboard the captured Council flagship Eternal Dominion. The chamber had been built to intimidate visiting species with its massive size and alien architecture, but now it served a different purpose. Representatives from a dozen liberated species sat around a circular table, planning the future of galactic civilization. High Arbiter Zephkol sat at the far end of the table, no longer wearing his flowing robes of office. Instead, he wore simple gray clothing provided by his human captors. His golden eyes held a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect as he watched former subjects of the Council speak as equals. The Altair Republic has voted to join the new alliance, reported Captain Rogers, who now served as humanity's diplomatic liaison. That brings our total membership to 15 species across 43 star systems. President Carter nodded approvingly. The Democratic Galactic Alliance was growing faster than anyone had expected. Word of humanity's victory had spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring suppressed species to rise up against their council overseers. "What's the status of the liberation fleets?" she asked. Admiral Morrison activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Green dots represented liberated systems, yellow showed active rebellions, and red marked remaining council strongholds. Captain Johnson's task force liberated the Rigel colonies yesterday. Colonel Torres is leading operations in the Vega sector. We estimate another 6 months to complete liberation of all council territories. Dr. Wade looked up from her data pad. The psychological impact has been extraordinary. The Council maintained power through the assumption that resistance was hopeless. Once that assumption was shattered, their entire system began to collapse. Zefkol spoke for the first time during the meeting. "You cannot comprehend the chaos you have unleashed. Some species require guidance. Without proper supervision, they will destroy themselves. Like humans did?" President Carter asked mildly. "Humans are unusual," Zefkol admitted reluctantly. "Most species are not capable of such rapid adaptation." Commander Phillips, who had spent weeks interrogating captured council officers, disagreed. "The intelligence we've gathered tells a different story. The council deliberately kept other species dependent and weak. You created the very problems you claim to solve." The holographic display changed to show detailed reports from liberated worlds. Species that had been under council control for millennia were already forming their own governments and establishing trade relationships. Rather than chaos, the galaxy was experiencing an explosion of cultural and technological exchange. The Zephyrian Republic has offered to share their advanced medical technology, Rogers reported. The Korthak want to establish joint mining operations with human colonies. The Nexari are teaching other species about psionic development. For 50,000 years, the Council had kept these species isolated from each other, preventing the kind of cooperation that might threaten their authority. Now, freed from that constraint, galactic civilization was evolving at an unprecedented rate. Danny Clark entered the conference room carrying a device that looked like a crystalline sculpture. "I've finished the work on their dampening technology. This quantum disruptor can permanently disable Council suppression fields across an entire star system," he demonstrated by activating the device. The air around it shimmered briefly, and several pieces of Council technology in the room went dark. "Any species that gets this technology will be immune to Council control methods." "How many can we produce?" Admiral Morrison asked. "With help from the Zephyrian Republic, we can build enough to equip every liberated system within a year." Zefkol watched this exchange with growing amazement. Not only had humans defeated the Council militarily, but they were freely sharing the technology that gave them their advantage. In his experience, powerful species hoarded their advantages to maintain dominance over others. "I don't understand your strategy," he said to President Carter. "You have superior technology and military forces. Why share power with weaker species?" Carter considered the question carefully. "Because power shared is power multiplied. The Council ruled through fear and isolation. We're building something based on cooperation and mutual benefit. And if some species abuse that trust, then we'll deal with those problems as they arise. But we won't punish entire civilizations for crimes they haven't committed." The conference was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Johnson. His image appeared on the holographic display, transmitted from the bridge of his flagship in the Rigel system. "Madam President, we have a situation. The remaining Council forces are gathering for what looks like a final assault. Intelligence suggests they're planning to retake Earth and capture our leadership." Admiral Morrison studied the tactical data streaming in from Johnson's position. "How many ships?" 400 vessels, including their newest dreadnoughts. They're being led by Supreme Arbiter Kolthek himself. Zefkol paled at the mention of that name. Kolthek commands the Council's ultimate enforcement fleet. His ships carry planet-killing weapons. Afraid we might lose? President Carter asked. Afraid of what Kolthek will do if he feels cornered, Zefkol replied. He would rather destroy a system than see it fall into rebel hands. Carter looked around the table at the faces of humanity's allies. These beings represented species that had lived under Council oppression for millennia. Now they faced the prospect of a final battle that would determine whether the galaxy returned to the old ways or embraced a new future. Admiral Morrison prepared the defense of Earth. Colonel Torres, I want every available ship ready for combat. Ma'am, Rogers interjected, we could evacuate the civilian population and fight the battle elsewhere. No, Earth is the symbol of resistance to Council authority. If we run now, we undermine everything we've accomplished. Dr. Wade received a communication from the Zephyrian Republic. Their entire fleet is requesting permission to join the battle. They say this is their chance to finally end Council tyranny. Granted, contact all our allies. Tell them this is the moment we've been building toward. As the meeting broke up and preparations began for the final confrontation, Zefkol remained in his chair. President Carter noticed his thoughtful expression. Something on your mind? She asked. In 50,000 years of Council rule, no species has ever voluntarily fought alongside another in a major battle. Your alliance is truly unprecedented. Maybe that's why the Council never faced serious resistance before. It's hard to fight when you're alone. 3 days later, the largest space battle in galactic history took place in the Sol system. The Council's ultimate fleet, representing the accumulated military might of dozens of species, faced a coalition of liberated worlds, united in their determination to remain free. The battle raged for 18 hours. Council dreadnoughts, each capable of destroying planets, found themselves overwhelmed by swarms of smaller ships from a dozen different species. Human tactics, Zephyrian technology, Korthak firepower, and Nexari coordination proved an unbeatable combination. When Supreme Arbiter Kolthek's flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, the last organized resistance to galactic freedom died with it. 6 months later, President Carter stood before the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on the space station Hope, orbiting Earth. Representatives from over 100 species filled the Great Hall, debating legislation and forming trade agreements. The galaxy buzzed with an energy that had been suppressed for 50 millennia. The Democratic Galactic Alliance recognizes the sovereign right of all species to determine their own destiny, she declared in her address to the Assembly. We offer friendship to any who seek it, protection to any who need it, and freedom to all. In the audience, Zefkol watched with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. The galaxy was changing faster than he had thought possible. Whether that change would ultimately prove beneficial remained to be seen, but there was no denying its scope. Captain Rogers, now serving as humanity's ambassador to the Alliance, approached the former High Arbiter after the session. Your expertise on galactic affairs would be valuable to the new government. President Carter has authorized me to offer you a position as advisor. You would trust a former enemy with such responsibility? The galaxy is big enough for former enemies to become allies. As Zefkol considered the offer, he realized that humanity had accomplished something the Council never had. They had created a system where former enemies could find a place, where different species could work together despite their differences, where freedom was seen as a right rather than a privilege. The Galactic Council had claimed absolute authority over the galaxy for 50,000 years. Humanity's response had not just defeated them, but had created something better in their place. The age of domination was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And in the vast expanse of space, new species looked up at the stars and saw not masters waiting to subjugate them, but friends ready to welcome them into a galaxy where freedom belonged to all.